All right, let's go. Let's go. I think it's going. There we go. Melanated family. Happy to be back for a brand new week of the Melanated Convo podcast. It's your brother Harrison. Happy to have my sister Sonia Williams Lewis in the building with me. This is the show that we do weekly where we discuss different topics going on in the news, different news stories, different things going on with our people, giving our perspective on, how these things affect Black people in different ways to view it is really the main purpose of the show. So I'm happy to be back, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Melanated Combo podcast on YouTube. The Melanated Combo is how you would find it on YouTube. Subscribe, become a member of the family. All the digital platforms, you can find the show there as well. So today we're going to do, typically me and my sister talk about maybe 2 or 3 news stories, right? And we kind of just dig in and give our take. Today we're going to do about 5, right? We're just going to go a little bit quicker. But some of these things, I enjoy getting Sonia's take on it, but some of these things I want to speak about as well, because always a lot of stuff going on in our community, depending on how you view it. So happy to be back. Brand new week, Melanated Combo podcast. Let's get it cracking. First thing I want to talk to you about, Sonia, and this is something I heard about maybe a month or a few weeks ago with different individuals, but apparently BET is up for sale.
Right.
And currently 50 Cent, Kenya Burris, Shaq. I've heard of some other big name celebrities that may have been just in the talks to be possible people that can buy it as well. So these individuals want to buy BET, right? So Sonia, how do we look at that? Because we've known since Bob Johnson had it and sold it. I read a book called $40 Million Slaves, where in that book they quoted him as saying that he kind of regretted selling BET the way he did, right? So when we look at a network like BET, where the irony is, I mean, it's Black entertainment television, but it's ran by white folks, like a lot of other shit. How do we view it when we see our people potentially in a situation to own this station, knowing the history and everything? You know what I mean?
I think it's very interesting along the line of what's American, right? So last week we talked about, like, if you're in any kind of position, what's your exit plan? Mm-hmm. How are you either choosing someone as your successor? How are you setting up your organization? So as a business owner, I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I'm forced to sell to folks other than and not be able to pass this down to my family, right? Mm-hmm. Because part of my vision is that it's legacy and I want them to be able to take this over. And I'm pretty sure that Bob Johnson and those who envisioned what BET would be and become, I'm sure, like, in the back of his mind was like, I want to see, if I do sell this, I want to sell it to somebody Black.
Yeah.
But if Black folks ain't got their coins together, then what do we do? Yeah. And I really think that we have to also position ourselves, smartly economically, to make sure that we are not going beyond our capacity to do the best work that we can. I think that there should have been more effort back then to find or put together a group of investors that were Black or majority Black to take on back then. But I'm glad that now, and it's an interesting mix of people who, some folks will be like, okay, Kenya Burris, okay, Shaq.
But they all have not just money and star power, but they have experience, like 50 and Kenya Burris, they have experience in TV, and I'm all for it as long as there's a little bit of empowerment in there, because right now, I'm not gonna lie, look, white people own BET, but I ain't gonna front. Some of the programming is pretty good. BET Plus, BET Her, these initiatives. There are shows on these stations where I'm like, damn, I like that TV show. But we gotta get because Teen Summit was on BET back in the day. And what we're talking about is just a little bit of empowerment. So I expect. Just me talking. I expect if white folks own it to go after what makes money. Just regular television, what makes money, I get that. But if it get in the hands of some Black folks, we need to try a little bit of empowerment, because right now it's just like ratchetly violent. You know what I mean?
No, I 100% agree. And that's the important part of having a platform where you control it, right?
There we go.
like part of that exit plan for anybody, it needs to include like these important details of, I want to see these aspects carried out going forward and not let that
Mhm.
go by the wayside. And I think that that's the problem when, you got this big ass carrot that's worth a whole bunch of money dangling in front
Mhm.
of your face, and it's literally time for you to go because you know that it's time for you to go. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's the struggle that a lot of successful black business owners find themselves in, this
Mhm.
huge conundrum of, what do I do and how do I manage this? Because legitimately, if I let it go, I can't control the outcome of where it ends up after I let it go.
I
And
can't
so,
control the outcome. Yep.
right? And so we do, as a community, I think that they have to do a better job. Their board of directors has to do a better job of making sure the right voices are at the table. And the only reason that I think that they've been so successful in those initiatives with the extra BET platforms that are there
Mm.
now
Mm.
is because they've had some black folks in their ear.
Yep.
And particularly after George Floyd, I mean, we have to continue to go back to that thing, because
Mhm.
when it was initially sold, we didn't have all that as even options. But after
True.
George Floyd, they were like, oh, we better bring some folks in to give us a piece of what we're missing here.
What
And
we're
that was what was birthed out of that.
Yep.
So, yeah, they've done some good things. I know that what's in the hands of some responsible black folks, they can do even better and bigger things. And that's the hope. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm all for it.
Me too. And then, just my fear, Sonia, is because, like I was mentioning, the initiatives with BET currently, I want to see some empowerment. But
Right,
just as far as TV
right.
programming, they're doing a pretty good job. And I'm sure they incorporated Tyler Perry
Yeah,
and some other black folks who have their finger on the pulse, so to speak, so they can kind of help them create some stuff. But just with white folks owning it, I mean, at
yeah.
any time they can just pull the plug on all that shit.
All of it.
You see,
Let's keep it
it
real.
is just the
All of it.
irony of them owning black entertainment
Yeah,
television. You know what I mean? I know they own they have the market share on a lot
yeah.
of what we view and what we consume, but damn, not BET too. So I'm excited that
And I
if
can
those,
remember when it was first sold here in Sacramento, there was a news broadcaster who said, I swear, Harrison, this is what she said one night on the 11 o'clock news. She said, the bet channel has been sold for X amount. I swear to Jesus. Not BET, Black Entertainment Television, because they don't value what we do. They
Mhm.
don't value our voice. They see us simply as entertainment. And so it's so like erroneous for us to hear that and be like, what the hell is she talking about? But
Yeah.
even to not do your homework as a veteran anchor person in a market that is incredibly urban. This is supposed to be one of the most diverse markets in on the face of the earth, Sacramento.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you would say the bet channel was sold. And I just, yeah, so therein lies the conundrum. What will white folks really and truly do for us at the end of the day when trying to represent us?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because my partner used to install cable, and he would mention to me in certain white communities, BET ain't even on the list. When he would go and give them their cable, certain communities just coincidentally,
Yeah,
BET wasn't even on the channel selection.
right,
So she
right.
probably thought it said bet because she ain't even thought of an
You're just reading the
idea.
teleprompter. Just reading the teleprompter.
Just reading it, just reading it. So shout out to all them black brothers, 50
Yeah,
Cent, Kenya Burris. Hopefully they can get something together.
I
That
hope.
I like the idea of that, of us just being in control and
Yeah,
owning shit. That's how it's supposed to be. So next thing I want to talk to you about, Sonia. This brother, last Monday, a black homeless man, 30-year-old black man named Jordan Neely, was on the F train. He was on, I think it's New York, Manhattan, right? So he's on the subway, Sonia, and apparently he of course it's come out that this brother had mental illness issues and things he had going on. So apparently he was saying that he was hungry and he needed to eat and he didn't care, being a little irate, like
right.
on the subway, right? So being a
Yeah,
little irate, from what I'm reading, he may have been making threats to people, right? Haven't heard anything about him being violent himself,
no.
like him actually putting his hands on someone. So after that takes place, so he's on the subway acting this way. So
Yeah.
a 24-year-old, and I'm gonna get his name real quick here. He puts him in a chokehold, Sonia. Daniel Penny is the young man's name.
Yeah.
He puts him in a
Yeah.
chokehold, right? So he puts him in a chokehold, and if you watch the video, because I'm aware that a lot can happen before I see a video and after it, as far as the clip that I view. But on the clip that I seen, it looked pretty bad how they were holding him down, and the fact that he held him down for 15 minutes. How do you feel about that, Sonia? Because yes, this is a black man, right? So some people are looking at this and saying, hey, is this a racist white man? Like, what
Yeah.
was he intent? Was he like just a hero, a vigilante? What was
Right.
his intent behind doing this? So when you look at something like this, seeing that that's a brother who is struggling through mental illness, what do you
Yeah.
think?
So first thing, I always say when race comes into the topic of the conversation is people can be well-intended white folks and still uplift and hold on to racist tendencies and racist norms. As a matter of fact, I've
Mhm.
said on this on our platform having these conversations, even us as black folks uphold racist tendencies, white supremacy normals, right? And so I don't care if somebody doesn't, he comes back and say, but I didn't do it because he was black. The
Mhm.
fact of the matter that you walk in white privilege is a racist white supremacist norm because you know you can get away with, because you think that you're defusing a situation because this black man is being a nuisance. Now,
Mhm.
this is also what I discovered after doing a little bit of research on this young man. Not only was he unhoused, not only was he hungry, he's a veteran. And
Oh.
so,
Huh.
yeah. And so when we talk about veterans in particular, I think about my father, who was a Vietnam vet, and he tells the story of one of his brothers. My dad got a cushy military job at the Navy. He guarded a port, and he saw no action the entire time he was there. But his brother jumped out of fighter planes and
Mhm.
saw all the action. And if you were to ask him about that action, it sends him into an emotional mental meltdown immediately. And
Mhm.
so we don't know what war, when you see someone else who you're trained with die right in front of you, and maybe
Mhm.
you could have prevented it, or you see the enemy pointing guns at you, and the only option you have, even though you value life, is to take their life, right?
Mhm.
So we don't know what that looks like. Now, going back to the young white man, bless his heart, who thought he was doing something. This man had not touched anybody. And
He didn't
I
touch
don't
nobody.
give a damn what he said. You could have been on guard to protect somebody who got touched without touching this man. This man
Exactly.
should 100,000% be alive today. There's
Mhm.
no, like, who gives you permission to touch somebody?
Yeah,
Now,
and he.
it would be a different conversation had he touched somebody, but he didn't.
Mhm.
And so let's have that conversation about what white privilege allows for white men in particular to get
Mhm.
away with. And I saw in the video two other white men. One was holding his hands down while the man was being choked out for 15 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
no. So you're guilty too. I just want all three of those white men to know if I'm an attorney, I'm coming for you. If I'm law enforcement, I'm coming for you. You were culpable in a crime that it resulted in someone's death, which was murder.
Very true. And the autopsy revealed homicide as the cause of death, him
Yes,
being choked to death, right?
yes.
So for one, he's choking him for 15 minutes. Two, we don't know the temperament of this young white man, but like you said, the society will make him believe what he
And
did
he's
was
a
okay
hero.
because he was hella goddamn comfortable. And we got to keep it real. He was in the Marines. I was reading a little bit about his bio. He seems like he's an adrenaline junkie a little bit. Oh yeah.
Yes.
He seems like he's the kind of white guy that wants to take it there, that
Yeah,
wants to say, "Yeah, I'll fucking do it." You know
right.
what I mean? In those type of situations, but something should happen because to me, his lawyer came out and said, he didn't mean to hurt him. He was trying to protect people. That's bullshit. The way he casually put that man in a chokehold for 15 minutes in a chokehold is an extremely long time.
Yeah.
Manslaughter minimum, but he needs to go to jail. And it's funny, Sonia, because when you said something a few minutes ago that really resonated with me because I don't know of black people doing things of this manner, right? So to say like his privilege gave him all the courage
All
he
of it.
needed, because I've seen black folks step in to stop something from
Yes.
happening. But chokehold for 15 minutes, you was trying to do something else. And him being a Marine, everything he had to
We're
go through
trained.
being there, he was trained. It's very well he could have knew what the fuck he was doing. So
Absolutely.
that's dangerous, but there definitely should be some jail time, Sonia.
It's so ironic also that this is the state of New York where Eric Gartner was murdered by a chokehold by a police officer,
Come
and
on
the
now.
chokehold is now banned in the state of New York by law enforcement, and now chokeholds are being looked at across this nation. For an ex-Marine to then use a chokehold and you're a civilian, these are the let me take a deep breath, because it bugs me. Like, we have to begin to connect the dots on where one, privilege lies, but two, like, where does power, like, that there's okay, so New York is not a like Florida, where you got to stand your ground. You don't got that kind of rights.
Exactly.
California, New York,
Much more strenuous. Yes.
right? And so I would hope that the district attorney there, the attorney general for the state of New York, is looking at this case and beginning to not just examine vigilante violence and murder, but this goes also hand in hand with gun violence, right? Because this little white boy, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to bash the entire white race. This little white boy knew what he was doing. And I'm gonna stand on that. I said what I said. He knew what he was doing to a certain degree, and I don't care about the adrenaline rush. Those are the officers who show up on the scene and they shoot first and ask questions
That's
later.
what I was thinking about. What I seen his bio in the kind of white man he was, I said, you know what? This sounds like some police officer shit. You think you got the right to put him in a chokehold? You think
Yes.
it's up to you because
Yes.
subduing him? Because let's think about it. If you're militarily trained and you are skilled, you can subdue somebody without hurting them if you wanted
Yes.
to. You can sit him down. You can do a little move to him to make sure he don't move no more. But if
Right.
he's not actually putting his hands on somebody, you shouldn't touch him. But this is showing your privilege in America. And again, the court system and the justice system in this country always has an opportunity to set a precedent.
Yes.
And this is one of those opportunities. He should definitely be charged with manslaughter. A couple of articles I was reading was going over his heroism in the Marines. It was kind
Mm,
of painting him as a
mm,
kind of a war hero. He
mm,
went back twice. He didn't won
mm.
all these awards. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
Yeah. That means he was gung ho to put a gun in his hand. He
Yeah.
was gung ho to do all of the things and be trained properly. He was gung ho. He probably passed all the guns, ammunition tests very quickly. He was gung ho to do extra. And those individuals who are
Mhm.
gung ho to do extra are the ones who always go overboard, because rationale doesn't kick in. This is about the physicality of the job. This isn't about the mental capacity and compassion and empathy for individuals. Like
Mhm.
I tell all police officers, as I do my activism work all the time, call some grandmas out of their houses to calm down some of these kids in the street. Because I know that when
Mhm.
school lets out, and if it was a fight going on, there has never been a fight that I've witnessed between kids that I could not stop. So,
True.
because I
Yeah.
have compassion, because I
Yeah.
have empathy, because I have the wherewithal in my mind to say, baby, what do you need? Baby, what is the problem? Getting to
Mhm.
the root of whatever the issue is that this young man may have been suffering at that moment. Like,
Mhm.
I would have, if I were on that subway, I would have been like, what stop are you getting off of? Let me go buy you some food. What's the, if I were in a more
Because
economical,
we gotta
go ahead.
no, but we have to look at what he was saying. To your point, Sonia, what he was saying, I'm hungry. I'm tired. He was speaking to his mental capacity at the time. And now
Yes.
we have to also understand that in certain parts of this country, New York being that type of place, I've been to New York, the
Yeah.
people are really goddamn rude. Like the people are very, very dismissive in New York. So
My
some of them
best
maybe
friend
just
who is from New York would say, "We ain't rude, we straight to the point." I'd be like, "That's
they rude.
borderline rude. That's borderline rude."
Yeah, borderline rude. Used to be around all them people. You see what I'm
Right,
saying? And then
right.
we look at the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah.
This country has to do a better job of addressing
But
this. But vigilantes, like we can't set the precedence where I can be a citizen, I can see a man possibly posing a threat and put him in a chokehold that'll kill him.
yeah,
That was completely unnecessary, Sony, because I'm gonna keep saying it. 15 minutes is a long time to
a
put
long
somebody in a
ass time.
chokehold. Your ass was trying to prove something.
And
That
to
you
your
was
point,
practicing something.
right. And to your point of when Black folks do step in to, advocate or stop some mess that's going down, we come to a point and be like, when is it excessive, or when should I stop, and we walk away. And I'm going to use the example because someone got in my I posted on this, and someone responded and said, well, have you seen all of those videos lately of Black folks in stores where white folks is calling the N-word, and they punch them and knock them out and all this kind of stuff? Do they knock them out and walk away? Do they knock him out and then somebody intervenes and the man is still alive? I ain't seen none of these videos where a Black man killed a white man for saying the N-word. And if it was happening, best believe we'd be under the jail.
Yeah, it exactly. It's funny you say that. I just seen one of the videos where, yes, this happens in shit. I'm proud of these videos. Watch your goddamn mouth.
Watch your mouth.
If you willing to say something to me that I deem disrespectful, you got to be willing to take the consequences. And to your point, man, we so spiritual and African, because I've seen these brothers knock a dude out and then he
And be
pleads
like,
with
he
him a little
okay.
bit, almost like, why did you make me do that?
Right.
I didn't want to fight you or hit
Right.
you, but you pushed my hand. Now I'm gonna go on and pay for this little shit I got in my hand.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not there casually trying to kill
No.
somebody or hurt somebody, because just like you said, we'd be under the jail if that was the
Under.
case. So shout out, RIP to that brother, man.
Yes.
Jordan Neely, RIP to that brother. I seen some videos and stuff of him like impersonating Michael Jackson on the subway.
Yes.
And his family was speaking to the mental illness that he go through. So this is a wake up call for all
Yes.
of us, right? Like, of course, we need to be safe and protect ourselves, but a lot of people in our country are hurting. A lot of homeless people, a lot of them, they going through something mentally, man. And you got to know how to gauge how serious the threat is, because this man is dead for no reason. And he a 30-year-old man. He could have possibly got a lot of his issues corrected. You know what I mean? So
help.
Moving on to the next story. Yeah, help. Right. So moving on to the next story. So this is something I want to get your take on, right? Because a sister named, and I didn't know who this sister was.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Ebony K. Williams, right? She's a lawyer. I think she has a book out. I think she has a show on the Griot. She was interviewing Alanya. I always say her name wrong. Alanya Van Zant. She was interviewing her.
Yeah.
Alanya. She was interviewing her, and they were having a good conversation. I watched the bulk of it, and she made a comment about if she dated a man who was a bus driver, because this is the premise that they used. If she dated a man that was a bus driver, he has to own the bus. Now, to unpack that comment in itself, just looking at it and how the Griot set the clip up and everything, it looked it bad. Like how she said it, it looked it bad. It looked like she was saying, if you don't own something, I'm not interested in you as a man. But looking at how the world works, I mean, business owners, men, Black men in particular, very small percentage of us own businesses, right? So that's one thing where it kind of seemed as if she was saying, look, if you're not owning some shit, I'm not talking to you. Now, I've seen her on The Breakfast Club. She explained a little more, in my opinion, semi-backtracking slightly, but she explained a little more. And she basically was saying, Sonia, if people should be goal-oriented, and if you're Black, you should be focused on owning something, because they take stuff from us, because we don't have a large stake in the pie as far as ownership is concerned, right? So I understood her point there, but how she approached it, saying mediocre and using these words that really have a negative connotation. Because if you say
Absolutely.
a construction worker or a bus driver or they're doing mediocre work, that regardless of how you want to frame it, there's a negative connotation attached to that word. But
Absolutely.
these people own houses. This is the
Absolutely.
everyday worker that we have in America, right? So now how do you feel about that conversation as far as a woman putting that type of um stigma or that type of level of requirement on her
Yeah.
potential mate?
I think that we get too caught up in the what success looks like, what
Hmm.
happiness looks like, or happiness can potentially be. And I know for sure. I was gonna say I don't think. I know for sure that money is not the root of happiness or joy, right? And so we can get into situations with folks who are career driven, who are on the track to be the head of, their organizations, owners of companies and things of that nature, and never be connected to our spouses because
Hmm.
they're so career driven. I can remember having conversations with my Spelman sisters when it was time for us to graduate and going back for college reunions. Shout out to Spelman College because we have in our 30-year college reunion. My class is in a couple of weeks, and I will be there. But having these conversations with successful Black women who have gotten, quote unquote, made it out the hood, beat the stereotype. And so I can remember having a conversation with one of my best friends. She's in New York. She's an attorney, and both of us were of the mindset, I want to marry somebody like my daddy who know how to go to work every day. They don't have to necessarily have a college degree. At the same time, both of us came to a realization where, okay, having the conversation with our mate about being equally yoked is another conversation to be had, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm not going to put you down if I make more money. That's not something this is not about a status of who brings in the most money in the household. I think where her mistake is the language and the misuse of words like mediocre,
Hmm.
because I don't think that a bus driver is mediocre. My husband is a press engineer. He goes to work every day in a blue collar uniform, works long grueling hours, does physical labor, but he got a nice pretty little title that says press engineer, when the reality is he runs the machine that cranks out the newspaper, big old giant, machinery, where
Yeah.
his hands get dirty every day, where his
Hmm.
uniform goes in to be washed at the plant, because ink is, not only does it soak through the uniform, it gets on his body. So, and it's hardworking, and I got good benefits. And
Hmm.
my kids never had to worry about dental care and eye care and life
Hmm.
insurance and all of the shit that goes along with having a good job.
Hmm.
So I think that oftentimes we get caught up again. I'm gonna go back to race, these norms of whiteness, and we get bamboozled into believing that success looks one way and it can look like a multitude of ways. And so I appreciate the
Yeah.
conversation. I think that having more conversations like this, we can flush out some ways in which we as a community can better respect each other when it comes to what we bring to the table. Because here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people think about is, you can get comfortable. My husband is comfortable in his job, and one of the things that bugs me about him is I don't think that he is driven to managerial positions. I
Hmm.
don't He's going to retire in that position.
Hmm.
I could never work for 30 years for a company and not see myself doing and wanting to achieve more. But
Hmm.
does it mean that he's mediocre? Hell no.
That's a
Hell
good
no.
point. That's a
Right?
good point. Yep.
And so we have to, as women, I think that we have the luxury sometimes to dream in a way that's different from where men are. I have to provide for my family, and this is secure, so I'm
Hmm.
going to do that. And the fear of doing something different, right, is a legitimate fear. Like, I can remember having conversations with my husband 10 years ago, being like, the newspaper industry is going to be null and void in a couple of years.
Hmm.
I'm gonna need you to go and get a trade in another industry. And he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm gonna ride this to the wheels will fall out. I promise you, that's what his response was to me.
Hmm.
And I have to be like, okay, are we gonna be okay? Because if we're not gonna be okay, that means I got to do something else to fill in where he might lose a job, because that's a real reality. But
Yeah.
I think that men sometimes get comfortable, and men and women, people in general, but
Yeah.
men in particular, because they are conditioned to be the hunter, the
Mm.
go-getter. And if I got something that I feel like is good and satisfactory, and I can buy a house with it, and I can make sure my kids go to college, and I can make sure that we have cars and go on vacation, why am I going to do something different?
Yeah, and then I think part of that trigger, because again, the sister Ebony K. Williams is who we talking about, everybody, and she made some comments about not dating a bus driver. They're using the bus driver analogy, but just wanting a man who is about something. The
Yeah.
the clip sounded bad, and she doubled down on it a little bit when I seen her
Yeah.
talk a little
I
bit. You know
said
what I
what I
mean?
said.
You know what I mean? But we need to. I think, Sonia, this triggered some folks because we got to be honest. We do have women in our society, y'all, who say, when it comes to me dating a man, what does he got?
Yeah.
Like, this is the top thing on the list.
Yeah.
What does he got? What can he give me financially? What
Yeah.
can he provide for me? What he gonna pay for? This
Yeah.
is a reality with a lot of women in our society. And I think what I see sometimes that I don't like, because if that's your choice, a man, it's up to him to deal with that if he wants to. You know what I
Right.
mean? But what I
Right.
don't like sometimes, Sonia, is, one of the reasons I enjoy having our conversations and diatribes, because of like the work that you've put in for yourself. Like my
Right.
woman, like talking to you, I really appreciate a woman who decided to do what she needed to do for herself, whatever
Yeah.
whatever that may be, right?
Yeah.
So when that's the case, you looking for a partner that can add to what you already have. All too often, I
Absolutely.
see women who don't got shit, who don't do nothing with themselves, but they talking about they want a baller. They talking
Right.
about they want somebody to take care of them, but
Yeah.
literally they not bringing nothing to the table, but shit physically, and that's a misguided approach
Absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
dating and finding a partner, because it's much more it's much more complex than the physical or even money.
Yeah.
And she backtracked and said, excuse me, if you a bus driver and you passionate about it and you love it and it's something you really wanted to do, then I'm there with you. So
Yeah.
she kind of clarified, and I think the overall point is Black people need to chase things,
Yeah.
um like something for yourself. Try to start a business if that's something that you can do, because we understand how these companies feel about us and they can fire us at any moment. But if
Time.
you are the guy who's a bus driver for 40 years and you got
Right.
benefits and you sent your kids to college, I can't call
Kudos.
your career path mediocre.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And all for nothing, I don't know how true this is, but I heard this, and this, I was like, because what I was hearing was maybe she had a fiance that was
Mhm.
white. Somebody can correct me on that, like if I'm wrong. She had a fiance that was white. Now, if that's true,
Right.
that changes how I look at her argument a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're not even going after us. You know what I mean? If
Right.
that's some bullshit, it's some bullshit. But that
Right.
made me think, like, damn, that, because sometimes, Sonia, we need to be honest. Who you date can tell us how you feel about everything.
Yes.
Like, who you date can be like a window to your opinions and ideals about the world.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's unfortunate that we live in, I name these things all the time, patriarchy society, where men are told go do this and women are told go do that, right?
Mhm.
And so these standards of gender, or these expectations because you are a man or because you are a woman, get very convoluted when we have these kind of conversations,
Mhm.
because I didn't grow up in a household where my mother was like, "Oh, baby, be the prettiest thing so that he can, just keep you barefoot and pregnant." My mama didn't send me that message, right? She was
Mhm.
like, "You go to school and you become the best version of you and become passionate about what you want to do and seek someone who's like-minded."
Mhm.
Whereas my daddy was like, "No, baby, you go and find somebody that's a provider, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, he needs to bring you to his house. That proves to you and to us that he can take care of you and that you ain't got to come back home so that we got to take care of you again." Because my
That makes
parents
sense.
knew that I was a little bougie something, and I was going to cost a pretty penny to make sure that things was okay. And that's okay too. if you're working together in conjunction with your mate. But I do agree that it tells a lot about a person, who they end up dating, and that rejection factor, right? Because not only does it say about something about who the perspective you have about who you end up dating and who you end up with, but it also tells you a level of comfort and love that you have for yourself. Like I tell people all
All
the
that
time,
is
if
in there.
you can't date somebody who look like your mama or your daddy, you need to examine what that's all about. That is a
You need to
little bit of
examine what it's all about.
self-hatred.
And people, and I think, and just to wrap up on that topic, sometimes people, Sonia, don't realize your dating choices are a reflection of your trauma. They
Yes,
are a reflection of how you see
yes,
yourself. Because
yes,
look, dating any race of person is fine, long as, especially somebody black, as long as you culturally you have an understanding of who we are as
right,
people, and you bring that to whatever culture this woman or man is. But we also got to realize that some of us didn't like our hair. Let's keep it fucking real, man. Some
right.
of us didn't like our hair. Some of us didn't like some of the attributes of black culture that
Yeah,
white supremacy in the system that we lived in created, and a lot of us just festered in. A lot of
absolutely.
us looked at our neighborhoods in the ghetto and the women as loud and all these negative connotations, not factor in the historicity of all of it. Let's keep that real. Some people want to run
Absolutely.
as far away from that as they can, and that needs to be explored. And so sometimes when you see a black woman or a black man dating somebody outside of their race, that is a telltale sign of how they feel about all of us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I just did a training with a corporate organization, nonprofit. Went in with my suit the first day. Went in second day with some J's on, some jeans, and an African garb, like overcoat. And
Mm-hmm.
I told them on day one, I am an unapologetic black girl from Oakland who sometimes has to get loud because too many times in my life I went unheard. And we need to explore why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because just like you said, our traumas dictate how we figure out how to move. That's part of the code switch too.
Yeah.
We don't always take that into consideration that we can take that mask off later on. But part of the code switch is my trauma dictates how I relate to other people, not just our spouses, not but everybody in community.
Mm-hmm.
And that in line goes with who we attract. But shout out to the hardworking bus drivers, garbage truck drivers. My daddy
Yeah.
owned his trucking company for 20 something years, but he started off driving somebody else's truck. Shout out to the city workers, right? The street
Mhm.
sweepers. Shout out to them. Because at the end of the day, when folks don't have a job, that's what you should be mad about.
Yeah, and all these workers, I was watching the Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne said something that was, was really, it was basic, but it was really enlightening to me that the essential workers are way more important than entertainers. Like
Say that.
the actual job they do is necessary, like
Say
extremely
that.
necessary. We
Yes.
getting coffee, we getting gas, we going to buy bread.
Right.
The people that are doing these jobs, you can say whatever you want to say about them. Without them, where would we be as a society? So that's
Absolutely.
always an interesting conversation to me, because I think young people and people who are looking to date and be in relationships is much more deeper than finances. You need to determine what you want from someone as far as emotionally and stability and all these different things. And money is important. But if you just chasing money, if you fall in love with somebody or commingling with somebody strictly because of finances, I think
Right.
you'll always find yourself in an unhappy place. You know what I mean? And that's black or
Absolutely.
otherwise. So that was a very interesting topic that brought up, because a lot of women feel like that. If you're not a baller, if you're not owning nothing, I'm not talking to you. And
Yeah.
I think that's a narrow view of looking at dating. So
Absolutely.
next thing we're going to talk about, just real quick. So, Sonia, a Mississippi family is searching for answers about what happened to their son after his remains were found in 3 separate places. Now, attorney Ben Crump is now involved,
Yeah.
as he and the family said they believe this could be racially motivated. Now, the family of 25-year-old Rasheem Carter said he was last seen outside the Super 8 motel in October in Laurel, which is half an hour away from where he had been contracted to work at a manufacturing company, Georgia Pacific in Taylorsville. Now, parts of his body was found like on November 2nd, February 23rd. And one of the interesting things, Sonia, about this, because we don't know what happened to this young man, but we
Right.
have to. Sometimes I think it's important to rely on the sentiments of the family and what has been said. So this young man
Yeah.
told his mom, "Hey, some of the guys I'm working with, they're not rocking with me. Like if something happens to me,
Right.
it may be by the hands of somebody that work here." And
Yeah.
he mentioned something like that to her multiple times. So all too often, because I'll have people tell me, "Hey, you're looking at a situation where you don't know what happened. You don't
Yeah.
know if it was racially motivated." But look, I'm just erring on the side of caution. Like I'm not going to deny the fact that in this country, a, a large percentage of, especially in like a state like Mississippi, when black folks go missing, when black folks feel an energy about somebody that's around them and we don't tend to look into it the correct way,
Right.
anything can happen. So I'm not taking off the table that the
No.
white, and he said was fucking with him, like we mentioned earlier, like the 24-year-old white dude. That privilege to know that if I do get into a situation with somebody that's not white, what
Yeah.
I do to them will be viewed a certain way. We can't act like that ain't the situation in the country we live in. Sonia.
Absolutely. I think the unfortunate part about this story is that it's the after fact that you're finding body pieces not in a timely manner, right? You can't, there are certain parts of the story that I wasn't able to say to myself and feel confident in, there being a trace back of like his last moments, being alive,
Mhm,
which is so
mhm,
unfortunate. But in the state of Mississippi, I'm not putting anything past some good old white boys. I'm just not.
mhm.
I can't. The consciousness of myself won't allow me to do that. And I think that we as a black community, but as a greater global community, have to really examine why I'm saying the good old boys in the South have such an enamored amount of power, um
Mhm.
that it's scary. It's scary to even think that there are black folks that still, that one, have lived in these conditions and under the auspice of this white supremacist norm for all these years and won't leave. And two, it's strange to me that there's been an influx of folks moving back to the South because the standard of living or the cultural dynamics there hasn't changed. And while I know that there are always going to be enclaves and pockets of good stewardship and good community, behavior, there's always, you turn down that wrong block, you go in that wrong neighborhood, you gonna find Mr. Jones with his rifle on his lap on his porch, ready to shoot anybody
That's a
at the drop
reality.
of a dime. That's the reality of this. And if this young man was telling his family, I am afraid that they're going to do something to me, we have to legitimately look into this. And unfortunately, they got Ben Crump on the case. I know Ben personally, and Ben is going to fight tooth and nail to uncover whatever kind of documents on
Mhm.
these individuals who worked at this organization, to make sure that there is some semblance of justice. We might not get all the answers, but we're gonna find some things are gonna be uncovered. Promise you.
And look, this young man told his mama, he texted his mom and said, "Look, me and the owner of this company is not seeing eye to eye, mama."
Yeah.
And I quote, "If anything happens to me, he's responsible for it." Now, look, we've
Wow.
all been through skirmishes at work, like disagreements with coworkers, managers. When have we ever thought they gonna kill us?
Yeah.
He must have exhibited something
Yeah.
or said something or made him feel a certain way where he knew, look, this shit can get violent. And I'm in Mississippi, probably one of these little small towns. I know how the mob rule works when,
Yeah.
these white folks get with each other. When it's one or two of us and 9 or 10 of them, sometimes they get a little emboldened. Like we
Yes.
know this to be true. So I don't think this young man would be saying this for nothing. So I think the police department there, the Taylorsville Police Department, really needs to look into that. But again, history tells us they not gonna give a shit.
Right.
Because when do you find body parts of a person in different places. What kind of individual does that?
Right. And months
You see?
later. Right.
You
And
see?
bit by
So
bit. Yeah.
bit by bit. So RIP to this brother, man. But and
Yes.
like you said, you pointed out something that as far as the grieving process is concerned, I know it makes it more difficult. Yeah, my son died. I don't know what happened, but they're finding parts of his
Yeah.
body like months upon months in separate locations. This is horrible. So it's important that we continue to talk about this kind of shit, Tony, because
Yeah.
they need to look into it. And I'm sure if they look hard enough, they'll see. Because look, if he's not a mentally ill person who had a weapon, who hurt himself, or if he
Right.
wasn't known to kind of do certain stuff, when somebody ended up dead, for the most part, somebody did that shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Somebody did it. If they didn't hurt, if they didn't harm themselves or were known to do that, somebody did it. And I'm always leaning towards what these families say after the person dies, because the person
Absolutely.
can't speak for themselves, but the family gonna tell you what kind of person he was, what he was into, and what we was talking about. So RIP to this brother.
Yes.
Hopefully his family get, and Ben Crump is there. Hopefully they can get some financial compensation, because we know trying to find somebody and arrest them, that's always a challenge dealing with America and how they view us. You know what I mean? So hopefully they can get some type of closure. But this was a sad story, Sonia.
Very sad. Very, very sad.
Now, last thing I want to talk about real quick. I just want to get your take on this. So, of course, we all know the Brat rapper, the Brat, and all for nothing, the Brat was my favorite female MC for a really long time. Like her
Really?
approach, her
Yeah.
non-sexual approach to rapping, we can listen to the Brat in the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
I rock with the Brat, but she having a baby, right? Cool. Her and her mate, her and a female having a baby. Do y'all thing. But Sonia, they getting some flack because the sperm donor is white, right?
Yeah.
Now the news headline is highlighting the fact that she said the couple or the one black guy that was available to possibly be the sperm donor looked like Jiminy Cricket. Of course, the internet is gonna eat you up when you say some shit like that, because there is a colorism.
Yes.
Colorism is real in our country, and
Very.
people sometimes tend to shy away from black skin. But to add more context, Sonia, the Brat's partner said the sperm donor pool is the black sperm donor pool is less than 5%. So in a situation like this, do we
It's
say
so
find me the
unfortunate.
black one, or I'm gonna just wait till I get the black one? What are they supposed to do, Sonia?
It's so unfortunate. I think, personally, this is me. Me and my girlfriends have had these kind of conversations. Like, what if we don't end up with somebody, right? Where we gonna get some sperm from so that we can become a mommy, right? It's too many. They both know some black men's. They could have went to the homie in them.
You could have went to the homie like, hey, I got a proposition for
well
you.
off and know enough well-off black men in the world that they could have knocked at somebody's door and be like, can I buy a cup of sperm? And I'm not being facetious. But on the other hand of this also gives credence to where these sperm donor companies don't seek sperm for black men, right? Because they're catering to the people who are coming through their door who want babies, which 9 times out of 10 ain't us. It's just, that's just the reality of it. The reality, if a black woman is struggling to have a child, she's going to do one of a couple of things. The first thing that she's going to do, she's going to go to the doctor. She might, if she has benefits, do IVF, and her spouse they will extract their own eggs and sperm, have them mature in a petri dish, have it inseminated in her or a surrogate. Black folks will also take on the consideration of, I will adopt, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The third option, and I've been presented with this because my family knows that I'm fertile myrtle, right? I've had several of my cousins who have had issues with giving birth say, Sonia, would you be a surrogate? Would you just carry a baby for me? And that's, I think, because we are communal people, we gonna take care of who. There's too many babies around here that need homes and need love.
This is
To
true. This is true.
you
Yeah.
know,
So that's what I was thinking, Sonia. Before we wrap everything up, if you wanted the father to be black, I'm sure it possibly money's not a problem for y'all, right?
right?
So the resources are there to say, I want
Absolutely.
this baby to be by a brother. So when people see that, and then you say the one option they did have looked like Jiminy Cricket, I mean, and then when you described the white guy, you said he was tall and handsome. I mean, you always have to look into that. Now, they could have meant nothing by it, but
Right.
this is a real thing in our society where
It
some
is.
people will say, that baby ain't gonna have no nappy hair. They gonna look at our hair and some of our phenotype as a negative thing because of what's been purported like in society. Like this is a real thing,
Absolutely.
So of course people gonna jump on them and have things to say about it. I don't mind it. I personally think I don't mind people dating outside of their race. I think
Right.
black folks having babies with black folks, I think that's the best option. I mean, just to keep it real, just to
Right.
us mating with each other is the best option. You go outside of our race, cool, but I don't find nothing wrong with that. Other races people do it all the time.
Right.
They tell their kid, you ain't bringing home nothing but somebody that look like me. And
Right.
sometimes that's not a racist statement
Right.
more so than a survival statement, a
Yeah.
familial
Yeah.
statement. You see what I'm saying? So we should all look to mate with each other. And it's weird, y'all two black women, but the baby gonna be half white. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, I would say the daddy should look like us, right? So
I'm gonna go back to like you got enough coins, both of
come on
y'all,
now.
enough coins to have knocked on any brother's door that has 6 or 7 figures in the. Let's say we're millionaires, 7 figures.
Mhm.
They could have knocked on 100 of their doors because they have access to folks who are millionaires.
Exactly.
And
So yeah, so because them, because sometimes once the backlash comes, people retract their steps a little bit. You know what I mean? So they could have meant that hey, the pool was low because it was like 2,000 people or 2,000 candidates. Then it went down to 300. I'm thinking, damn, out of the 2,000, wasn't no brother there. Y'all couldn't say, hey, take me to the sperm bank that got the black men
right,
there.
right. What's your neighbor? I mean, but
Sperm
you can
bank in
get
the
sperm.
hood.
You can get sperm anywhere. So they could have gone to another state for sperm.
Yeah,
I
another
just feel
state. They
like
could
you
have. They could have got him
maybe
an African. They could have picked the kind of black man they had.
you didn't do your due diligence. I'm sorry, Brat, and I love you. I'm like you. Brat can do no wrong. But you could have gone to another state. You could have gone to another sperm donor bank. You could have gone to another country. White folks do it all the time. They go to
Come on
China
now.
and pick a baby like it's like buying out of a vending machine.
This is a
I'm.
fact.
I just. I. Yeah. I. When I saw this, I was like, really? That's what we did?
Y'all need to just keep it real and say, hey, look, I want my son to look like Brad Pitt, rather,
Right.
motherfucker. I don't
And
want
I'm okay with that if that's the choice that you're going for, but
say that.
don't make
Yeah,
the excuse that one, there was a limited pool, and two, he looked like Jiminy Cricket. I have a problem with that because, of course, we can get into the weeds when we talk about, colorism, featureism, texturism. All
yeah.
of those things are very real to what we've experienced as Black folks in this country. And I would be remiss as a dark skinned woman to be like, I wish somebody would say something about this hair right here. Whether or not today I'm wearing my natural hair or next week I'm wearing a wig or the next week after that I got braids, regardless of how I show up or if I'm show up bald, right? Regardless of how I show up, there's always a
Hmm.
conversation and a commentary about how a Black woman shows up. But when,
Very true.
yeah, I'm struggling. I
Yeah.
just,
So
yeah,
shout out to the sister Brad. I'm happy she's having a baby. I root for
I
Brad. Like
am
I said, I
too.
was always a big fan of her, but that
Yes,
was kind of some weird shit. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? So everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Melanated Combo Podcast. Me and my sister, man, I'm always happy to be back with my sister. Everybody, please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe
yes,
to the Melanated Combo on YouTube. These shirts, Melanated State of Mind shirts, podcast
yes,
shirts, still available. Go to my Instagram, Melanated Combo 100. Me and my sister got the shirts on right now. Go to my Instagram page, Melanated Combo 100. DM me, all sizes. Got 4 or 5 different colors. Go to my Instagram. You'll see all the pictures there. I appreciate everybody tuning in, man, and supporting your boy. This has been just a beautiful ride. You feel me? I'm happy I was
yes.
able to connect with my sister and bring her aboard. Now we're doing this thing. You feel me? So
We
everybody
doing this
tune in
thing.
next week. We'll be back next Thursday. Melanated Combo Podcast. Me and my sister Sonia. Sonia, give them your Instagram real quick.
My Instagram is Ascribe Success. And shout out to my cousin Jay in Reno because he ordered a shirt and he sent me a picture with himself with the
He did.
shirt on. My
He did.
cousin,
He
one of
did.
my favorite cousins, Jason. We call him Jay in the family, but he ordered a shirt. He was like, "I got something to tell you," and he DM'd me a picture of the shirt. I was like, "Yes!" He's like, "I listen
Yeah, that's
all
dope.
the time." So yes,
Yep.
like, subscribe, all of the things. You can follow both of us. I am at Ascribe Success. That is my business Instagram or my personal Instagram, and I'm very selective who I let follow me. It's Sonia Said It.
Definitely. The Combo 100. That's where I talk all my shit on there. I have clips of the show, everything that I'm doing, the little businesses that I'm running. We out here moving, man. But what we really doing
Yeah.
is loving Black folks. That's what this is
Yes.
about. You know what I mean? So again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Melanated Combo Podcast. I'm your brother Harrison, Sonia Williams Lewis. We out.
We out.
All right, Sonia. Thank you so much. Sister, this computer about to go dead. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.